The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by Sidebar, its guests, callers, and advisors are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS Verizon Media Group. Sidebar, a 103.5 The Beat podcast, is a production of ILTV Studios and may not be reproduced or represented, in part or in its entirety, without the express written consent of Verizon Media Group. Sidebar is the intellectual property of Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2024. All rights reserved.
Welcome to Sidebar, 103 The Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. Today, we are talking to the Compost King, Nicholas Fox Jr. Let's get right into it.
Do I call you Nick?
You call me Nick. You could call me Nicholas. Yeah. Some people call me Fox, but I think Nick or Nicholas is fine.
All right. So, Nicholas, the Compost King, for persons who are unfamiliar with you, tell them who you are.
So my name's Nicholas Fox, also known as the Compost King. I am the founder of Soul and Soil Composting. I am a permaculture designer and a compost operations manager.
What is a permaculture designer?
So,
there are words there as like, what does that mean?
Basically, I'm looking at systems. So I'm looking at the way we live as a society, the way nature operates, and trying to bridge that gap and bringing some harmony between our tendencies, our government, and what we've evolved to be like in nature. As a compost operations manager, I am taking food waste, yard waste, taking that organic material, getting it from wherever possible, bringing it to site, and turning it into an organic product.
I guess that is the question I have. Like, when you're done with it, because I follow you online, I see the stuff that you're doing. The final product of the compost, are you selling that, or is it entirely like an educational process, or you're doing it for persons?
Right at the moment, it is an educational process. I do have intention to sell it. But once people are members of this composting community, aka they subscribe to the pickup service, they do get their compost back. Commercial entities, well, we work out a separate arrangement where they can donate compost or figure out where the compost can go if they want to provide it to a farm that they support or something of the sorts.
All right, so the big question is why? Like, why do any of it? You could just as easily do anything else. You could like go get a job at a bank or something. Like what would make you say, I want to go and essentially process garbage? Because that's how people think of it.
100%. So many people's, like, even yesterday in a class that I'm partaking in, people like, why don't you just go pick up garbage? And I think I like challenge. And I can see that there is a way for us to do better and be better. And that is through trash. Growing up, I grew up in a very clean house. My mom is a very clean lady. Both of my parents are very clean people. I everything went to the trash. My mother's side of the family also has some farming background. And we always talk about the rate of agriculture is declining and food imports are so high. There's that saying that another man's trash, or one man's trash is another man's treasure. And we spend all this money on food imports. We spend all this money to dump waste and landfill waste. We have all these dump fires. We have all this pest control and disease going around. Why not clean up and convert something that people see no value in and show them the value in it?
Yeah. All right. So now that is the actual question, because I think the average Bahamian is just once somebody described it as, they used to say we're throwing away stuff, but nobody ever said where away was. All right.
That's
And
the
so
thing.
as long as the garbage is not in my yard or the more perfect example would be, as long as the garbage isn't in my car. Right. So you're people who will throw garbage out of their window, but their car is immaculate. Right.
Yeah.
So like, as long as I don't see it, it doesn't matter. So how do you get people to see? Well, how are you getting people to see the value of this, where it's not enough? There's more that you can do with the stuff that we're throwing away.
It's a complex question, and but how I'm getting people to see this, other than just videos or having a conversation, just getting people to stop for a second and pull them out of their daily routine. I think a lot of people are comfortable with the way garbage is presented around them. You have to walk to go to work. You got to go work and pay bills. Like, why should I care about where my garbage going? I have plenty other things to think about. So yeah, screw that. I'm not going to put any time into thinking that my trash has value. It's trash. I've already gotten the value out of my Popeyes box or my food scraps, the food that I've eaten and thrown away. But getting people to understand that even the language that we use, throw away when there is no way, or calling things that are waste reusable or a second stream item, has some form of impact. Another thing I like to do is put yourself in your children's shoes. You go to the beach, you hear the news about coral being bleached, or you remember a time when you had more beach than there was now. So there's a lot more beach on some of these beaches back then. It's like, okay, you like conch, right? If we can't control certain things in our environment, your children won't have that access to conch, or the price will be so high. Or even some of the stories I tell people about inner city stories that I hear. My father had a patient who got bitten by rats, and there was a young child. He was forced to sleep outside, and the only thing I know about rats, I mean, quite a bit, but rats are attracted to food and dens of safety. So whether it's abandoned vehicles or mounds of bush that's not being taken care of from landscaping or derelict buildings, there's a reason why these things happen. And getting people to understand that this is not how it's meant to be, and we shouldn't be comfortable or complacent about it. We actually have a say or a part to play in how we handle our waste.
The rat thing makes sense because I feel like generally everybody I don't know many Bahamians who are like, oh yeah, man, rats are cool. All right, everybody
Yeah.
is on the same page with rats. But I was talking to my mother the other day. She was in her yard. She saw something in the corner of her eye, and she's like, oh, I thought that was a snake. And I was like, you really need to stop killing snakes, because since I was a kid, my mother has always been the one who was like, oh, let me go chop this snake up, or let me pour gas on this snake,
Yeah.
or whatever, right? And it's like, I told her, hey, the snakes, they eat the rats. And you don't like rats? The snakes eat the rat. And she's like, I don't care. I hate snakes. How
It's such a whole
difficult is it
thing.
for you? Yeah, right. But I'm saying, like, to get people to see the benefit. Because, I mean, you could say, hey, doing this thing is going to help alleviate issues with rats. It's going to help make your neighborhood look better. But like you said, the everybody's so busy and everybody's so tired and everybody's so overworked. How do you get them to see that this is not so difficult that it's impossible to become a part of our life? Because even when you're talking about like the composting, in my head it's like, okay, does that then mean I need to separate my garbage before I throw it out and like take whatever's biodegradable So I guess walk us through that. How do you help me understand how easy this can be?
I think a lot of people overthink it. I was 15 or 16 when I first started, and as simple as when you finish your food, you scrape your plate in the garbage. If you keep a compost bin next to your garbage, you're not really doing anything differently. It's not rocket science. And this is a discussion I was having yesterday with a cohort. People are like, that's too much work to separate my waste. I mean, so when you cook food and you chop up your vegetables and you like maybe shell some peas, that goes in the garbage at a separate time. Even when you scrape your plate, that goes in the garbage at a separate time. We use our garbage bins so many times throughout the day. We just don't think about how it is such a simple task to throw something away. Now we're just adding one hole to two holes. We're just making one hole, two holes. And
Right.
anything that's food waste goes in one hole two or bin two, and anything that is not food waste goes into bin one. When I was 15, I got my entire household, which is my mom and I, and when my sister would visit for summer, she hopped on board as well. On one side of our kitchen was the garbage bin, and the other side was our compost bin. You turn over, the compost bin is right next to the sink. The garbage bin is right on the other side, and that's it. It's as simple as that. I don't think the mental labor that people try to do before sorting waste is tedious, and it's unnecessary, because once you have the bin, you have the bin, and you're sorting waste. I'm not asking people to be perfect. I have clients who I got can openers, forks, and knives in the compost bin. And you don't have to throw all of your food into the bin. I mean, we're just trying to divert as much as possible from the landfill. Right. But I think so many people and so many aspects of life try to be perfect in everything that they do. They don't realize that I am not grading your compost. I'm not grading your ability to sort waste. We just want you to, yeah.
I mean, but yeah, imagine somebody saying, wow, this is your garbage, huh? I feel like I would be feeling graded. But let me ask you this. All can be composted? What all is composted?
Yeah.
Right.
So what is considered compostable? What can be composted, and what do I accept? Yeah, so paper towels, and I don't know. I think some cheaper paper towels have plastic in them, which is a different topic for a different day. Unlaminated paper, or papers that use heavy ink. So there's a flyer I had somewhere, and I don't want to promote this party, but I would use it as an example. You can't throw it up. You can't put a flyer in the compost. Fruits and vegetable scraps, seeds, onions, meat, bones, rice, dairy, and I mean cheese. We try to stay away from liquids because things get very nasty very quickly.
Right.
Oils, all of that can be composted. Food.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. Once again, you are watching and listening to Sidebar, 103 The Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
7.5 years, but I walk in here all of a sudden, total stranger. I'm calling you Rick and Sheila like.
At Island Lock, we take sports seriously. Get ready to experience the thrill of winning anytime and any place. Bet in real time and live the thrill of every play while watching your winnings stack up. It's your chance to score big with fast payouts and a world-class experience. Get in the game and bet the Bahamian way with Island Lock Sportsbook.
Welcome back to Sidebar, 103 The Beat podcast, powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. Today we're talking to Nicholas Fox Jr. about composting and the environment, how to make the Bahamas better. Let's jump into that conversation.
Because when you say you just put it inside a separate bin, I know, like, okay, and then afterwards maybe we take it outside, put it in a barrel, spit it around. But what you're doing is a next level.
Yeah.
So walk us through that.
Even that bin, so those things are like the lomies. They work by like chopping up the food and drying it out really well. So the thing that causes odor and bad smell is moisture.
Right.
If you have dry chicken bone and really dry chicken, it does not smell as bad. Because the meat has moisture, and when it starts to spoil, that's when you get a smell, but it typically lasts longer before it starts to smell compared to raw chicken. Right. Now, industrial composting, so you have two ingredients. You have browns and you have greens. And your browns is your yard waste. So whenever your groundskeeper will cut grass, or whoever cuts grass for you, he gives me the grass or the palm trees, we grind that up. And that's the browns. And then the greens would be all of the food waste and the things that you put in the bucket. Okay. And you basically create like a lasagna of alternating brown and green.
Wow. You just ruined
lasagna.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's still my favorite food.
It is. It's like, I mean, who doesn't like lasagna?
I'll ruin a lot of food for you tonight. Okay.
But yeah, so you layer it.
You layer it, and then you water it as you layer it, and that what happens is all of that moisture and that heat starts to turn into like a dough, like a brownie dough. And the reason you turn it is because you need to add oxygen to the pile, and turning it adds the oxygen, because compost is living bacteria and fungi and all these different things that live in the soil, and that's what keeps the soil alive. When your soil is dead, it's all dry and dusty, like on a windy day, and you see a lot of dust kick up. That's dead dirt. But living soil has all of these bacteria and fungi that eat. They do things that Bahamians do. They eat, they reproduce, and they die quick. That's kind of rough. But once it starts to heat up, all of that mass starts to heat up, because, I mean, just reproducing and dying quick produces so much heat. There's so much carbon dioxide happening. That heat turns into steam, and you have to continuously turn and water the pile for several weeks or months at a time until it gets out of that hot phase, and then it starts to stabilize at like ambient temperature, 85 degrees, 95 degrees. And over time, you'll see your lasagna go from lasagna to brownie, where on the inside it's nice and rich and fudgy, and it has a different type of smell. Typically, a lot of people who compost complain that their compost is very smelly, and it's because they're either not turning it or it's too wet. So when you water the pile and you flip the pile, it shouldn't have this sour ammonia-like smell. When the compost pile is maturing, it starts to have this earthy scent and not this ammonia scent. I've even had compost that smell like flowers, like very sweet flowers. I think one of my first piles, I had sifted it in a bin, in a big tote bin, and it rained. And as I picked the compost up, it smelled like perfume. And people say, that's impossible, compost is this and that. But when I pick up food waste from a restaurant, you get fresh onions, tomatoes, and lettuce that has been either in their freezer or in their refrigerator. It's not rotten. Right. So the first couple of days, everything smells like Kong salad to me. Kong salad and wood chips. So,
right. Yeah, that's the lucky part. So that's the process for like at home composting, or is that
all of it?
No, so I mean, because when you talk about like it heating up, right? Is that that will naturally happen if I'm just doing that in my backyard as well? And then, but yours is
so it happens. No, all heat is just natural. I don't add heat. But the thing that causes heat is mass. So let's say a typical household produces 20 to 40 pounds of food waste a week.
Okay.
That's eggshells, coffee grounds, whatever. They're gonna need 160 or 100 pounds. Yeah, you're gonna need about 100 pounds of brown waste to like get a proper ratio of browns to greens, but that's still not enough. That's still not enough mass to allow the heat to build up. Once you have like closer to 1,000 pounds of browns and greens mixed, exactly. I mean, and that's a lot for the average person. But in compost, we're talking about 280,000, 500,000, 20 million, like cubic tons or whatever. Like large facilities. I think one of the larger facilities in Oregon, 40 acres of compost. And these are piles that are 12 feet wide.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, how? But then at the same time, this stuff already exists because it's in the landfill.
Yeah. And I used to work at the landfill. So I have experience in seeing how much food waste and yard waste
did that bother you?
Pile up. Oh, 100%. It felt as though I did it for experience, but I did not understand how bad our system was broken until I got that job there. And it really put things into perspective for me. Because when you hear that we spend $1 billion on importing food, what's $1 billion in food? I spend $200 on groceries. Exactly. What is 200 to $1 billion? So it's really hard for people to even conceptualize $1 billion.
Right.
But when you realize that Bahamians eat a lot, we have a lot of food businesses, we support a lot of tourists, and typically about 20 to 30% of food is wasted, and that before it leaves the food store. So 1/5 to 1/3 of food is already being thrown away. I remember a particularly bad day when it was storming outside and I had to go to work because my job as an environmental inspector at the time would be to take pictures of where all of the garbage was dumped in a specific quadrant or sector of the landfill for the day.
Right.
Take pictures and then calculate the area and the height of that garbage. And then we would get like, okay, this many cubic tons of garbage was dumped. But you would see that the landfill has a composting section for just yard waste. Food waste, because food waste isn't separated, it all goes to landfill with everything else. But on that particular day, our fishing industry really needs some more regulation because maybe someone's freezer went bad or maybe they could not sell that fish for whatever reason. Right. And there was a box truck piled high with fish that just came and tipped over, dumped all the fish out into the landfill. And that's fish that could make excellent fertilizer for people, right, or it could feed some other type of worms or anything like that. Yeah, animals. Right. So out of all of the yard waste that gets to the landfill, I think 30% of it is composted, and then they're not selling that to people. It's unsellable actually, in my honest opinion. But they use it as a cover. So once they cover the landfill in fill, right, in mined fill and construction and demolition fill. So if somebody demolishes a house, they break it up into like a fine dust and they cover the garbage with that. They cover it in the compost that they make, and then they try to plant grass on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they have that green space. Now, I have two questions. One question is about the potential of using, I guess, food waste for feed, but I guess that doesn't fall under composting. And the other question is...
There's a correlation.
So we're going to come back to that one. But the one I wanted to ask about was when they're covering the existing landfill, right, with, like you said, mined, I'm guessing like curry and stuff, and building materials, and then with the compost, is that to prevent buildup of gas or explosions or fires? What is that exactly to do? Is that to like make it difficult for it to get access to oxygen?
Yes. So two things. We're gonna go back to that lasagna analogy where they're gonna put the garbage in a specific sector,
Right.
and they're gonna compress it so it can be like land, right? They're gonna compress it very tight, and that does two things. That makes it stable enough to pile on top on again, and it's going to limit the amount of oxygen because fire does not happen without oxygen. Fire triangle, I think there's fuel, heat, fuel, air, something else. But another part of my job would go around with a thermal gun and just look at hot pockets. One day I got into work at maybe 6 a.m. in February, and I saw, you'll see these micro cave-ins where they probably have just covered dirt or covered garbage and it rained, and you'll see steam coming out. And one day I thought it was smoke. There has been some micro fires, but those are very controlled and they're taken care of. Now, once that garbage is compacted, and they use these very heavy doses, D9s. People know what a Cat D9 is for the most part. They compress the garbage and then they cover it in between 12 inches to 18 inches of curry. And then they start building on top of that. So they typically do about 16 feet of garbage compressed, plus a foot. Yeah. And 700 trucks visit the landfill a day in New Providence.
That doesn't feel sustainable. It doesn't feel like, it feels like at some point we're going to fill this landfill, and then where do we go from there?
So that's one of the problems that I want to tackle when like 30% of landfill is organic matter. I remember on the first couple of months on my job, people are very cynical around garbage, and not many people realize how draining trash is. When you deal with it every day and you're covered in it and you fall in it and you smell like it and you taste it in your mouth and you see it. So these guys came in from the States one day and he was like, "You like work?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Give it 3 months. You'll hate it." And I was like, "Okay." And he was right. He was right. So, all I remember thinking, as I kept going, I was like, this just isn't right. This is so much garbage, and ideas are very hard to get past or get by in terms of composting, so on and so forth.
So okay, well, I guess before I ask you that question, what is in your mind the biggest issue then that needs to be tackled to make that a thing? Because you were saying that there are tons and tons of garbage going into the landfill every day. Some of this stuff has value and we just not realizing the value, but also it's not a sustainable thing to be happening. So what is the biggest issue preventing us from connecting those dots, in your opinion, for the Bahamas?
I think just a lack of, it's just not being put in front of the public's eye and stressing that importance. So the landfill probably has a decade left in terms of space. Okay. And that could be less or more, but we'll be kidding ourselves if that there's another solution for a landfill on this island. I think that we need to change or add laws, because even when you read laws about trash and garbage, and I think older Bahamians have a lot of pride and stake in laws, younger Bahamians probably care more about trends and what's going on. And maybe that's a very terrible generalization, but when you read the laws about garbage, there's rubbish, waste, trash, garbage, I think refuse, but there's nothing about recycling, composting, cardboard recycling, none of that. So I think having that discussion at a higher level or a top-down level where we could say, okay, this is the system we want to put in place to sort garbage and trash, so we can get these types of resources or raw materials from to then start other industries, is the first step. Because when you talk to business owners, we have a plastic ban, but we don't have an alternative, a proper defined alternative for plastic. A lot of businesses have improvised or
something.
They did something. And talking with other businesses, in talking with other businesses, they're like, you think I got to spend money on reusable containers? Now you want me spend money on compost? There's no incentive for people to compost. There's no incentive for people to recycle in a commercial space.
The incentive is missing. Like, how do you get people to get back? Because
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, all the cans used to have like 5 cents on it. Like in these states, you can return it to a recycling factory for 5
get
cents.
this and
Right.
that, yeah.
While it would be great if, I guess, I don't want to say capitalism, but if business didn't drive the ship, where if things used to be like, okay, we need to do this, where we would seek out correction more than comfort or capital. But we live in a world where until somebody shows you how this makes money, no one's really going to put their backing behind it. Right. And so that's the difficulty.
The composting industry in the U.S. has grown by $2 billion in the last year, right? I don't know. And speaking with other composters like LA Compost, for example, they have 10 million people. So serving 400,000 people a compost program is pretty much a cakewalk for them. But when it comes to right now, I work with people who understand the mission and the vision of Soul and Soil. And I think a lot of people hop on trends, and I want to make composting sexy. And that's really all it is. People don't need to understand all the ins and outs. People just need to understand that this is a wave that they could ride and they could feel better about themselves or look better in the eyes of their peers, because that's all that most people really care about. People don't care about saving the environment.
Which is sad.
People don't care. It is. But the reality of the situation is, people care about what makes them look good. And all I'm trying to do is show them that, if compost makes you look good and you get these other added benefits, good for you. But what I'm trying to do with composting is redefine what the Bahamas looks like to me, because we have tourists that come here and they expect paradise, but they get prison level garbage and trash. You walk downtown, not only is it a ghost town, but it smells like piss and doo-doo. All the time.
We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. You are watching and listening to Sidebar, a 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Paradise Premium Foods, where exceptional taste meets everyday convenience. Right in the heart of Hurricane Hole Plaza, whether you're planning a beachside brunch, an intimate dinner, or simply restocking your favorites, we offer only the finest selection of local and imported goods, handpicked for quality, freshness, and flavor. At Paradise Premium Foods, shopping is effortless, service is personal, and every visit feels like a treat. From gourmet meals to go to organic essentials and indulgent treats, this is your neighborhood market elevated. Live well, eat better. Discover Paradise Premium Foods, now open at Hurricane Hole Plaza, Paradise Island. Paradise Premium Foods. Taste the difference.
Thank you for sticking with us. This is Sidebar, a 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. Let's jump back into the conversation.
I walk Goodman's Bay on Saturday, and I love that people drinking drinks straight out the pineapple. But we don't have the Ministry of Public Parks and Beaches doesn't have the capacity to put bins all over the island, or they don't have enough people to contract out to clean the beaches. On Goodman's, they have a surf rake, which is a giant mechanical rake that you pull on a tractor that cleans the beach. But that's only once a week, Saturday morning. By Saturday afternoon, I walk the beach.
It's a mess.
You got more glass than yeah. So I definitely think putting out more trash cans and just having more public literacy about garbage could be a step in the right direction.
I want you to know. I mean, I've never composted anything. My nephew wanted to start composting. I'll find out if he ever actually accomplished that. But I do have an issue with like the way trash is treated, and I feel there must be some way for us to deal with that. How do we go ahead?
So I want to, like, what is the word waste management? We managing waste, right? And what is waste? That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be we managing waste. Even the word waste has so many different meanings, right? But if you just have a company that takes garbage from point A to point B, that's not managing waste. That's logistics. Where now, if you have a company and that says, hey, we have given you the capacity to sort waste, because I think many people are very entitled and very complacent. You buy the individual items from the grocery store. That is not, it's not sorted for you. You have to go and find those items. But now when I say, hey, we have 5 bins for glass, plastic, aluminum, paper, compost, waste, or whatever the segments are, and I want you to put those different things in the bin, and I'm being told that's too hard. Yeah. It's just, I think it's the
thing you said, like we put ourselves through this mental anguish where you're saying, I'm thinking about doing other things, and we make it seem harder than it is. But then when you broke it down, when you're like, you're going to scrape the food out of the plate anyway. All I'm saying is, instead of going left, go right. You know, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I had an idea when I was younger. I had an idea, right? And my only conclusion was that it wouldn't have been feasible economically or something. I don't know. But when you talk about incentives, if you told people, hey, let's start with something simple like the brown waste, right? If people knew the government would pay you, let's say, 50 cents a pound or 20 cents a pound, something where it sounds nominal, but then you actually bring it in, you weigh it out, you would have people collecting sticks and leaves for the weekend to bring it into the government place and be like, okay, this $10, this $20, it was already in the yard. Oh, I go in there, I can collect this. I think the same thing could apply to things like glass bottles. Definitely the tin, definitely the things. But the issue is that while you are somebody who is processing compostable things, these other things don't necessarily have that same mechanism behind it. There's no one there saying, okay, if you bring me glass, I can figure a way to either recycle this glass or to process it and get it off the island. If you bring me the tin, even if I don't recycle it on the island, I'll process it and ship it off and do that. I don't think we have those in place. And but I mean, I'm not putting that on you. My question to you would be like,
no
plans to scale what you're doing so that at least we can address food waste, and I'm saying food waste, but food scraps.
It's okay. Food,
right?
There you go.
It's really waste if half of what we throw away, we could give it to somebody who have a farm with some pigs in it, and they spend less money feeding the pigs. and so the cost of pork drops. I don't even eat pig, but that's not the point, right? The cost drops, right? And so now it's cheaper for people to eat and get food. That it benefits everybody in the cycle, in the environment anyway. So is there plans to scale what you're doing, and what does that look like?
Oh, most definitely. So I will say this. Working with the people who want to work with me and the residents, there are things like referral fees or getting an entire neighborhood or a constituency to start composting, and using that model to show, using that one area to show like, okay, so since we've been composting, this is what streets have looked like then, and this is what it looks like now. If you get your neighbors to compost, we can just give them both you and them a little bump off the subscription fee. But one of the biggest inhibitors to recycling is the sorting. But many hands make light work. The sorting machines for landfills and other industries are very expensive. They break down a lot. There was a sorting machine at the landfill. It burnt down. So, but food waste is the biggest contaminant and the most volatile thing in garbage. Once you take the food waste out of the equation, now it's much easier to separate plastics, glass, and metals. Sometimes some facilities just use water. Water or air. They're getting very advanced with the cameras and the AI and all of that. But removing food waste eliminates a lot of headache for other recyclers, like up-end technology, and maybe some glass manufacturers, and that will open the door or make it a lot easier for them to then set up infrastructure. When it comes to composting, the food waste rots in the garbage. That rot brings the flies and the maggots. That brings the rats. The garbage starts to smell. When my girlfriend tells me to take out the garbage, and the garbage smells bad in the house, and I must go outside in my boxes, in my flip-flop, my mismatched flip-flop, to go take out the garbage, and I see a rat, I feel vulnerable. I feel like I'm about to get attacked by this rat, because he in his element and I in mine. So like these might be tiny and insignificant things that we just don't have to go through if we scrape our plate in one or the other.
Just keeping it simple. So what is the, I hear you talking about the machinery or the investment in the infrastructure, but what is the big thing? If you could wave a magic wand tomorrow and change this one thing, what is the big thing that you would change that you think would make a massive difference? Like what's the one thing you think that's holding back things? For me, I would either abolish the real estate industry, or I would fix the post office, or I would fix transportation. I feel like if you fix any of those three, everybody's life suddenly gets better in a measurable way. But
I with you on the transportation, honestly.
Yeah, that's Stephen's view. What does Nick want to change? What's that big thing that is like, if somebody said, hey, today is the day, whatever you want, we'll figure out a way to get it done in the next week. What does that big thing look like?
If I was PM for the day and I had the magic wand and the genie and the genie wish, I would, man, I think from you are 4 years old, you are learning about separating waste. Everybody's separating waste. That just now one composting industry, one plastic recycling industry to start making some public benches for the public transport change when you grant your wish. One metal refinery to take all these aluminum cans and so on and so forth to make traps for the lobster and the crab and whatever aluminum fence that people is mash up, all these light poles that people is be so attracted to.
Those are very expensive. Anyway, that's a whole different topic.
I think maybe I'm beating the question down, but I would have some solar panels on all these roofs so we don't have to import as much oil, and a biodiesel refinery, because so much if we had to like quantify how much chicken in a bag is get eaten a day in this country, we have enough fryer oil to power the country. And some glass recycling to make some fiberglass to insulate the homes.
See,
there's so many industries.
What I'm hearing is that we have. It's like if somebody was like, oh, there is a bunch of money, but all you got to do is just walk through the door and collect it, and people are like, that sounds like a lot. Because as you are talking about that, I am thinking about situations where persons who own places that sell fried food, right, and they are constantly changing their oil, they would not call the people whose responsibility it is to deal with their grease traps or to dispose of the oil properly. So they pour the old oil down drains, not their sink drain, but like the actual drain outside of the establishment. And then it clogs up, and then the entirety of... Because you ever wonder why some places where you go that are very popular places, and it's like, why does out here smell like the sewer system is backed up? Because it is.
Yeah,
right.
No,
because
it is
literally pouring away money.
When
if somebody would invest in recycling, like I said, making biodiesel out of used cooking oil. So that's literally.
And I'll say this, like the whole electric vehicle wave. Shout out to everybody who have an electric vehicle, and I know y'all trying to do y'all thing, and I know these companies trying to do their thing. And I understand that we're reducing emissions now. But you charging the car from your house that is ran from BPL, that runs off of diesel, bunker fuel, whatever the fuel is. So is BPL working harder? Yes. When we put down these solar panels, shout out to the government for finally putting down some solar panels. When we put down these solar panels, are we reducing emissions? Or are we going back to square one because we have so many more electronics in the country? I want people to understand that we beating around the bush. When the bush beat us back, now we want to cut down the bush. We want to go all the way around the circle instead of just going straight through and dealing with it in the upfront cost, because what you don't spend now will cost you 3 times as much later. It'll cost you time. It'll cost you stress. And trust me, this looks very black right now, but I have grace.
There was a time where I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh man, so much dandruff in my hair. And then I realized it's like, oh no. Oh no, it was just great. It caught me off guard. But so I fully understand. But you're right. And I think it is often difficult for persons to think about tomorrow. We are constantly on a cycle where we're like, okay, I just got to make it through today. I got to make it through today. I got to make it to the weekend. And we're thinking these small increments. Yes. Unless you die, 2026 is going to come. Unless you die, 2027 is going to come. So what state are you going to find yourself in that situation? So maybe it is best to chip in the extra $50 and get the full version. Or as you're saying in this case, it's one thing to have renewable energy, but if the source isn't green, then what are we really doing?
Then is it really renewable? And another thing, there's a few things that you made me think of. Would you, if you're gonna be unhappy in a situation in 3 years, and you have to take 3 years to make a change, why not just face the fear and make the change today? There's a lot of just sitting back and letting life happen to you instead of going in and like making a change. You know, some of the things that we say and we take it so lightly. How are you doing? All is job. Like, you already putting your problems onto the Lord, and you say, "Wait, God have control," but like, we still have free will to make our lives better. We still have the ability to make things happen. And what I want people to see, like, things only getting more expensive. We're going to continue to import food. We're going to continue to develop and cut down the trees and we're going to continue to not support farmers, and we're going to continue to complain. We're going to continue to have hypertension, high blood pressure, cancer, diabetes, all these chronic illnesses, and we're going to continue not taking our meds and getting more stressed out by the news. And it's not going to look good for us. But I'm not asking anybody to fix all these problems. I wouldn't even ask the government to try and fix all these problems. I'm just asking you to scrape your plate into one bin.
That's all I want you to do. Just separate the food from the wrappers. That's all we're asking. That's fair enough. That makes sense.
All right, we're going to take one more break. You are watching and listening to Sidebar, a 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. We'll be right back.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Welcome back. This is Sidebar, a 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. Let's jump into the conversation.
If you could leave the people with one thing, if there's only one thing that they take away from this, what would it be that you want to make sure that sticks with them?
I just want people to realize that we don't have to be a consumerist nation. The nature of the island is to be self-sufficient, and self-sufficiency, make and do with what you have. And buddy, we have plenty to do a lot with. People on the islands before, the first time I met you, and you opened my eyes and told me that corned beef used to be a delicacy, and the way people used to make grits, that changed my perspective a lot, because we are so used to these little comforts. We don't need much. We don't need much to be content and happy with life. And I guarantee you, a clean room, a clean environment is a clean mind. So when you feel in stress about things in life and inside you, clean your room, clean the dishes, go out and clean outside, engage in some community, because every time we have a garbage cleanup or some type of beach cleanup, you feel much better about yourself, and you feel much better about going to that specific area because you know you did a part in cleaning it. I think people so proud to be a Bahamian, and people say it's better in the Bahamas, but I promise you, if everybody were to pick up 2 pieces of trash tomorrow, we would love this country harder than any generation of Bahamians have ever loved this country before.
When people say that they're proud to be a Bahamian, it is one of the most empty phrases ever. No, because it's like pride in your country also is it's not just words, it's something that you have to participate in. And whether that is picking up garbage, whether that's letting somebody cross the road, whether that's helping. But what are you actually proud of? So when you say, people say they're proud to be Bahamian, say, yeah, they say it. However,
I want Bahamians to realize that we have the ability and the population size for true sovereignty. We have the ability to go out and utilize land to allow us to become more prosperous. And I don't think I'm being idealistic here. We have some of the brightest minds in the world. We have some of the best athletes in the world. Where, look at the NBA. Look at all the sports.
We're dominating. Because everything that we've talked about in terms of waste is like, oh, well, if you take that, you can make that into something else. and that's a product that we will spend money to bring in the country. At the same time, we're throwing away soda cans in the bush, and so nobody sees them until somebody pushed the bush down to go build a house, and then they just throw that away and they send it to the landfill, and it never gets used. It just gets buried underground somewhere. Somebody is also bringing in aluminum to make aluminum sidings for that same house that's being built there, and then we'll spend $21 for a bag of brown manure from the plant store. Yeah.
The food store, yeah, for the plant store. You got black cow manure and some of the things, man, that really just took a nerve just now. But you go and you buy compost or soil from like big soil, Miracle Grow, whoever, and big soil, and it's sterile. It's not the benefit of, so plants have an immune system, and the immune system is the soil. So if your food and crops aren't growing well, the plant is getting attacked. Only weak plants get sick. And when you put artificial synthetic fertilizers on plants, it's crack. Now, they getting a quick fix, but they don't have the other 93 minerals and elements that they need to be a full plant. But the tomato from your grandma yard that she been fertilizing that yard for the past 70 years of her life, that got everything plus the trauma in the soil. And these things people take for granted, but they have, the soil remembers. The soil stores this energy and this past and these things, because from a biological standpoint, not to nerd out too much, but when you stress out a plant and the plant has the ability to combat that stress, it produces a better fruit for your body.
The Coconut Boys, right? And so
yes,
they
let's
came
go.
about during the pandemic, but people never. The problem that we have as Bahamians, or one of the problems we have as Bahamians is we have an idea, but we don't see it all the way through. The Coconut Boys from 2020 to 2025, during that time, at least one of them should have been like, you know what we need to do? Instead of going around asking people for coconuts and begging people for if we could climb their tree, every hotel has coconut trees on their property. They cannot allow the coconuts to ripe because it's a hazard. It's a liability. If those coconuts, but if you get hit in the head with a coconut on a hotel property, you as a millionaire are dead. Right. So they hire people to remove the coconuts off of their property. So now, if I was a coconut boy, right, my aim would be not to just sell coconuts on the side of the road, but I would want to be paid to collect the coconuts, open them up, sell the water, sell the jelly out of it, right? But then the husk itself, you could use that for fertilizer. You could use that for charcoal. It's a bunch of different. So I would then process
so many
it
things
instead of throwing it on the side of the road, because the other complaint people had was, once they cut open the coconuts, they just leave a giant mound. You can turn that into something that somebody else would sell. So you making money three times off of the same coconut.
And if anybody wants for me to collect coconut husks, call me, because I will collect the coconut husks. And here's another thing that I have a problem with. There is a Coconut 360 program that the Ministry of Agriculture launched. And I am very grateful to the Ministry of Agriculture and the work that they do. But when it comes to developing ideas, you have people who in the end markets who have experience and exposure in some of these things. When I went to the program, the people in charge was like, yeah, we really care about your idea and how you want to do it. And I was like, hey, I'm an end market user for the coconuts. I could turn this into mulch and compost. I'm a small business, young, black Bahamian man. And they're like, we have somebody for that. And it's like, there's enough coconuts to go around. For the 3 weeks that I collected coconuts, I must have collected over 3,000 coconuts in the back of my truck and turned that into compost for my yard. But now, working with the government, well, It's not even. It ain't even working with them. It's begging them because I gotta say, please let me be a part of your project, and here's my recommendation for how everybody could win and make some money.
Right,
and they're just like,
and that's the thing. Your
we don't
idea
care about
has
that.
to be
We have the
flexible
idea.
enough
So
that when you get presented with new ideas, you're like, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, but even something as simple as that, right? Right now, what we have is the Coconut Boy saying, "Oh well, it ain't working out like how it used to be," and X, Y, and Z, right? But even if it was a matter of reinvesting, a matter of just starting from the point of I am being paid to get the coconuts, and then I'm selling the coconuts over, and then later on we figure out what to do with the massive coconuts that are left over, because like these. But you have to have a vision, or you have to have an idea, and saying, well, what else can we do with these to even go looking for that solution, you know? And so that, when you say what the person
this
says,
is where literacy comes
like,
into effect.
We have everything we need, right?
You have it. We have everything. All you have all you need to get started. We have AI. We have Google. I mean, and I'm not a huge advocate for AI. I think that we have to look for exposure. In my phone right now, I have what coconut stalls should look like from other places that I visited, where other people make coconut water, coconut jelly smoothie, coconut pudding.
So before my internet cut off, right? For the fourth time. Tell people how they could get a hold of you.
So if you want to contact me directly on WhatsApp, my business number is 455-6858. If you want to reach us, you can find me on Instagram at the Compost King, DACOMPOSTKING. I am on TikTok, I am on Twitter, I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram. And I'm Nicholas Fox on LinkedIn. I'm also Nicholas Fox on Facebook. And my business is called Soul and Soil. SOULANDSOIL.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Nick.
And thank you so much for joining us once again. This has been Sidebar, a 103 The Beat podcast powered by ILTV. I'm Stephen Hanna. True God still.